Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content I've been putting up, be sure to subscribe so you always know when a new video pops up. Now that we got that part out of the way, let's get into the video. Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game with thousands of hours of content. What I'm going to do here is break down some of the major plot points for those of you who want to know more about Eorzea, but may not have time to experience it all firsthand. This time, we're covering the story of the Crystal Tower. In Mordona, you run into an oddly dressed but strangely familiar man who lets you know about a project going on in the area. Being a curious or maybe just a nosy individual, you go to see what it's all about. Rambros is surprised to see you since the only people who were supposed to know about the project were members of the Sons of St. Kornach, but since you're there, he decides to put you to work. However, the excavation that they're working on is dangerous, so if things go wrong, you might die. Of course, that doesn't do anything but make you excited, and the sight of your friend Sid makes you even more so. Rambros is surprised to hear that you two know each other, but Sid is more than happy to have you along even though you still have no idea what you signed up for. The Warrior of Light is the poster child for leaping before you look, so Sid breaks things down for you since you like to sign contracts before you actually read them. The group known as the Sons of St. Kornach are working on finding the secrets of the ancient Allegan Empire, and their current job is on track to reveal more about the ancient civilization than ever before. And while you're no scientist, you have dealt with a lot of ancient Allegan tech, including the Ultima weapon. Garleans hadn't built it, Nero had simply turned it on, so you have a more hands-on experience with Allegan tech than most, even if your experience lies solely in breaking it. In Mordona, there's a large Allegan building called the Crystal Tower, and after seeing the destructive power of Allegan relics like the Ultima weapon and the artificial moon Dalamud, it seems like a good idea to study the tower and learn what it does before the thing falls into the wrong hands. That's why Sid contacted the Sons of St. Kornach to set up an expedition into the tower. The building had been buried for thousands of years, but it was unearthed during the Calamity. It was only a matter of time before someone went to see what it was, but the place's defenses are still active, and anything trying to pass through the barriers gets blown up. The barriers are produced by 8 statues, and you won't be able to explore the tower without dealing with them, and you can't fly over it because anything that tries is shot out of the sky. Rambros admits that his people are not built to handle dangerous situations, so when they do get access to the tower, they'll need an adventurer to do all of the heavy lifting. And of course, you're eager to do it. There are a lot of things that need to be done, so I'm pretty sure you've already guessed what's coming next. Fetch quests, and a lot of them. The defenses of the tower each use one of the 4 primary elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. So Sid believes that the crystals matching the particular element of the force fields could reflect the energy of the barriers and cause them to overload. You will need the most pure crystals of each element as possible, just like the ones the beast tribes use to summon their primals. So now you get to rob the beast tribes, and the Eorzeans wonder why the different tribes hate them so much and keep summoning their gods to fight you. Being the good little peon that you are, you travel around Eorzea, liberating various members of the different tribes of both their property and their lives. The great hero you are, murdering people for the sake of science. After gathering all of the crystals, it's on to the next step. As they are, the crystals are useless. They need to be cut and polished before they can work, and that process takes more, very specific materials that you have to fetch. You got 4 crystals of different elements. Now you have to do the same for ether sand, required to make them useful. This isn't something you can find easily due to how rare the ether sand is, so Rambros has put in an order for some at the Goldsmith's Guild in Ul'dah. That way, whenever some does arrive, he'll already have claimed it. He sends you to see if they manage to get any, and he gives you the money to pay for it, but he seems to forget that all the teleporting around you've been doing costs money too. Fortunately for me, I'm a crafter, so Gil isn't really a problem, but he didn't know that. Lucky for you, you get to the Goldsmith's Guild shortly after a shipment of fire-aspected ether sand arrives. However, Biggs is there trying to convince the guild to sell him the sand for whatever project he's working on. Biggs wasn't expecting to see you there, and he's even more shocked to find out that you're working with his boss. He knew Sid was working on something dealing with Allegan relics, but he hadn't thought to ask what since he and Wedge were so busy working on a new airship. They've built a prototype, but it needs all 4 different types of ether sand to run. So he's after the same thing that you are, but since the Sons of St. Kornach reserved the sand, you got dibs. Since you're taking what he needs, Biggs wants you to let him join in on your assignment. And to show that he's not useless, he lets you know where to start looking for another bit of sand. There's a peddler in northern Thanalan who is said to deal in earth-aspected ether sand, and Wedge is in the process of hunting him down. Wedge hired an adventurer to be his bodyguard and headed out to Camp Blue Fog, so you head there to find him. You find his bodyguard at the camp, but no Wedge. She's more than happy to tell you the story, although she doesn't seem really happy at all. She and Wedge were looking for the peddler of ether sand just like Biggs told you, but when they found the guy, he'd been robbed by bandits. She and Wedge snuck into the bandits' camp to try to get the sand back. To make a long story short, they sucked at stealth, were seen, and had to run. She and Wedge were separated and she hasn't seen him since. He may still be in the Mithril mine, but she thinks that it's more than likely he's dead by now. Not wanting to abandon your friend, you head to the mine where the bandits are stationed, and you find him cowering in a corner trying to psych himself up to make an escape. When he sees you, he starts blabbering on and on about why he's there and such, stuff that, if you didn't already know, it should have been discussed at a different time. I never understand why people start holding casual conversations in the heart of enemy territory, like the world's just gonna pause until you remember that you need to get out of danger. Whatever. On the plus side, Wedge did find the ether sand, but he dropped it while he was running for his life. Instead of letting him wander around the bandit camp, you track down the earth-aspected ether sand and return to Wedge, only for him to decide to join you and Sid at the Crystal Tower too. You bring the 2 bits of sand back to Rambros, and Sid gets back to work on the crystals, although he can't believe that you actually got your hands on any of the sand, let alone 2 of the 4 you needed. Hearing that you got help from Biggs and Wedge is the last thing he expected. As for the wind and water ether sand that you still need, Rambros has made some arrangement that he doesn't seem happy about. He had asked a Charlian friend of his to go to Gridania and get what he needed, but the man just disappeared. Which isn't all that odd for him, but he still doesn't know if something happened to him or not. But there's no time to search for him either. Instead, Rambros sends you to Gridania to see if the Master of the Markets knows where you can buy the remaining materials. He hasn't seen any ether sand on the market board in years, but he knows where you could mine for the water sand. However, it's so dangerous that he wouldn't recommend it. As if that matters to you. The spot is an Earth's gift, but the place is inhabited by a very large hog that murders any and everyone that goes there. When you get to the place, you find the giant hog is already dead, and a voice taunts you for being so slow. The mysterious man has taken the ether sand that you needed, but he decides to make a race out of getting the wind sand. A group of Ixal in the Northern Shroud have some that they keep for purifying their crystals. Your mysterious friend tells you to hurry there before he takes what you want, and you rush off to the Ixali logging grounds. You deal with some Ixali who are not happy that you're robbing them, and you take the wind ether sand. Your mysterious watcher was so excited by your performance that he admits that he didn't even try to get the sand himself, and since he enjoyed seeing you in battle so much, he decides to leave the water ether sand for you as payment for entertaining him. The guy is clearly a bit touched in the head. Just because he claims the whole point of his test was to document the accomplishments and skills of a mighty adventurer doesn't mean he's not crazy. Regardless, you have everything Sid needs to break the barrier around the Crystal Tower, so you head back to Mordona with your prize. Sid works his magic and gets his devices ready shortly before Biggs and Wedge arrive to lend a hand. Another person shows up not long after, and although this is your first time seeing him, you recognize his voice. The man who challenged you to the race for the ether sand turns out to be a Mikode named Grahatia. He also happens to be the one who Rambros had sent to find the sand in the first place, so basically he just pawned off his job onto you. He's been assigned to Rambros' project as an observer, and despite his weirdness, he's not a bad guy. After naming your ragtag group of friends Noah after a famous Allegan Archmage, you set off to see if Sid's devices are going to work or kill you. Sid, not wanting to risk anyone else's life to see if his projects work, is the first to test it. It works quite well, destroying the first barrier and prompting the rest of you to move forward. With the outer defenses down, Sid suggests that you and a few other adventurers go into the tower first, because if the defenses on the outside were that strong, then there's no telling what's waiting inside. Grahati is not happy about it since it makes it difficult to record your actions if he's outside while you're smashing things, but his knowledge of ancient civilizations will be useful in helping Sid study the broken towers to see how they functioned. He admits that Sid's right, But before you set off, he lets you know that the maze surrounding the base of the tower is called the Labyrinth of the Ancients, and all you should do is take down any hostile things inside before you call him and Sid so they can figure out how to move into the tower proper. The time has come for you to finally begin your journey into the Crystal Tower. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of the story.